Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we are going to be doing a 14-team mock draft from the 13th overall spot on YahooFantasy.com. Inside of this video, I'm going to be talking about my thought process throughout the mock draft that we are doing today. I'm going to be talking about my opinion on why I am going with my picks, as well as my opinion on the picks going around me. So if you guys do end up enjoying this video, you want more mock drafts, I know people have asked for 14-team one, so this is the first 14-team one I have done this offseason. People have asked for Superflex, so those are going to be coming throughout the whole offseason. You're going to be seeing 12-team, 10-team, 8-team, 14-team mock drafts, as well as two quarterback or super flex mock drafts as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, the draft had already started. Christian McCaffrey coming off the board at the 1 spot, followed by Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, and Patrick Mahomes. The first round heavily dominated by the running back position, which is true in all drafts, but in 14-team leagues, I feel even more adamantly about taking a running back in the first round. In the third round, in 14-team leagues, the running backs that are still available are basically dog shit at that point. Now, they're not actually terrible, but in comparison to what you can get in the first and second round, that's why I try to draft running backs really early in a 14-team league, because after a while, it really starts to fall off. So we're going to go ahead here and go with Austin Eckler, running back of the Los Angeles Chargers, with our first pick. With how he played last year, obviously, it wasn't the greatest, but that was because of injury. We saw once, I almost just called him Hayden Hurst, once Justin Herbert got under center, this offense was just humming at another level, and Austin Eckler looked like complete and utter trash with Tyrod Taylor, because Tyrod Taylor just was not dumping the ball off, whereas Justin Herbert was more likely to do that, and Austin Eckler was eating on the ground as well as in the receiving game. Most of his points are going to be coming from his receiving yards, so you better believe he is going to be getting a bunch of receiving yards and receptions this season. I am a huge fan of Austin Eckler this year. I think in half PPR, PPR formats, this guy is a very, very safe pick just because of the floor of the amount of targets this guy is going to be seeing every single week. With our second pick, I went with Cam Akers. I do like Cam Akers a whole bunch. I'm not too sure right now how I feel about Akers versus Austin Eckler. I think technically, if you're thinking about a guy that's going to be getting a lot more rushing yards, then you go with Akers. Maybe in standard leagues, Akers is much better, but in a half PPR, full PPR, I definitely think I would lean Austin Eckler at this point. But I did get Akers on the second pick because I do believe that this LA Rams offense is going to be scoring so many points, because it is so simple for this team to be able to move the rock now with Matthew Stafford under center. The team is just so much better. They're going to be so much better. It is the same offensive line, basically. It is the same pieces around Matthew Stafford, but getting that upgrade from Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford is going to be unreal for this offense. And if the defense continues to play as strong as they did last season and seasons prior, they should be able to be up in these games late, especially if Stafford's able to put the pedal to the metal early on in the game. And then Cam Akers is going to be getting a whole lot of rushing opportunity later in games, which is kind of why we like for the opposite reason why we like some of these quarterbacks. A guy like Joe Burrow, who's going to be down late in games, who's going to have to crawl his way back in there. He's going to be attacking later in the game, which is why you like, on the reverse end, a running back on a team that is going to be up in games, because late in the game, they're going to be able to run the ball gently down the stream, and you're going to get a whole bunch of points later in the game from Cam Akers. So after I went with Austin Eckler, Devontae Adams came out the board, followed by Travis Kelce, which is a very normal strategy in a 12-team league, in a 10-team league. But to me, in a 14-team league, it is very ambitious to not leave the first two rounds with a running back, because like I said, when this many people are drafting running backs in the first and second round, your running backs that are going to be in the third round, in the fourth round available for you, you are not going to be really liking all that much, and we will see that when it comes back to our pick in the third round. That's kind of why I picked two running backs in a row, because I'm confident in the receivers in the third round, not so much of the running backs. I talk about this in basically every single video when I'm doing a mock draft, that you can literally win with any strategy. I am not a guy that's going to draft Patrick Mahomes in the first round. I think that the value there is just stupid. I would rather take a running back, a wide receiver there, and then in the 4th, 5th round, sure, you want a quarterback, then you go ahead and reach on Dak there. You go ahead and reach on Kyler Murray, but it's better to just build that core early with running backs and wide receivers, so I think it's stupid. But could Alexander over here at that pick win this league? 100%, because that's just how fantasy football goes. You can really do any strategy, just like the Adams and Kelsey strategy could work out. I just want to see who his running back is going to be in the 3rd round, in the 4th round, because it starts to get very, very grim. It gets a little bit watery down here in the 3rd round. So after I went with Cam Akers, came Antonio Gibson, DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Jefferson, J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Brown, D.K. Metcalf, Joe Mixon, Calvin Ridley, Miles Sanders, George Kittle, me Timbers, DeAndre Swift, Terry McLaurin, Josh Allen, Allen Robinson, Keenan Allen, 3 Allens in a row, Najee Harris, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Michael Thomas, Chris Carson, Mike Evans, and David Montgomery, followed by Darren Waller. Very interesting for Team 10 Alexander to not elect to go with a running back. Let's see how that one pays off in the next round. Same thing goes with Team 11, not electing to go running back, ends up going with the Julio, D-Hop, Tyreek Hill strategy. Maybe they're going with the 0 RB strategy. We'll see how that goes. After that, we see Chris Godwin come off the board, so we are back on the board. The running backs are, see, like I was saying, the running backs here are not 3rd round talents. Myles Gaskin, that's a no for me. Josh Jacobs, no. Chase Edmonds, no. Mike Davis, maybe, but I still think that's definitely a reach. So we're going to go with a wide receiver at this pick. I like Robert Woods a ton, but I don't feel like stacking my running back with my wide receiver. You can definitely do that, but for me, I'm not going to be doing that in this draft. Amari Cooper is going to be great yet again. One of my biggest no-nos for drafting Amari Cooper last season was his inconsistency, but last year he beat that inconsistency directly into the dirt, because even with the quarterback inconsistency, after Dak gets hurt, Gilbert Godfrey's playing quarterback, Gucci Danucci's playing quarterback, Andy Dalton's playing quarterback, and this offense is still running so well, and Amari Cooper is still, well, the offense wasn't running so well, but Amari Cooper was still playing well, that I think he could play even better in 2021. I am very happy drafting Amari Cooper in the 3rd round. Looking at the tight ends, all of the ones that I would want are gone at this point in the 4th round, so we're going to go ahead and snag another wide receiver here and reach potentially a little bit and get Deontay Johnson, wide receiver of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I could have went ahead and drafted CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, but if I'm being honest with you, in a 14-team league where I feel like it may be a bit more ambitious later at some of these wide receivers that I'm going to be taking, when I'm going to be looking for a lot of upside later, I don't necessarily want to have 2 wide receivers on the exact same team, but I just feel like stacking 2 wide receivers on the same team in redraft when you're drafting them in the 3rd and 4th round, to me, seems a little bit crazy. I just don't like it. I would rather, because then if the Dallas Cowboys have a down week, which they shouldn't really be having, right, because they have such a good passing offense, but if they have a down week where they're not really able to pass the ball as effectively, and then you're sitting there and you're like, fuck, man, Lamb, Cooper, they shit the bed, my team is now screwed because you have 2 players on the same team. That's kind of my thought process on that with drafting 2 wide receivers on the same team. A running back, a wide receiver does make a little more sense. I mean, the Robert Woods and the Cam Akers connection would be fine in most cases. I just didn't feel like doing it in this video. So after I went with Amari Cooper, Bobby Trees came off the board, followed by DJ Moore. Then I went with Deontay Johnson, followed by Myles Gaskin, Josh Jacobs, Chase Edmonds, TJ Hawkinson, Kareem Hunt, Adam Thielen, CeeDee Lamb, and Cooper Kupp. So you can see this 4th round of running backs, it is getting a little bit damp. It's getting damp down here. I don't even know if that's the correct word to say, but a guy like Myles Gaskin is a running back that I believe can be a workhorse, but there's definitely a chance that Coach Brian Flores and the new tandem offensive coordinators in Miami just elect to, give the ball more to Salvon Ahmed, and then you're kind of screwed there. I still think Gaskin should be good. Josh Jacobs is a guy that I will put a do not draft tag on because I do not believe in Josh Jacobs with Kenyon Drake there. Josh Jacobs' receiving upside was already limited. Last season, they were talking about how Josh Jacobs was going to get all these targets. John Gruden was telling us right to our face. He was lying right to us, telling us all that Josh Jacobs was going to see a huge uptick in receptions. No, does not happen. He's still not high enough in the targets to warrant what you would want out of a running back that you were drafting in like the second round last year. Now they bring in Kenyon Drake, who's very talented in the receiving aspect of the game, and I think that he's going to be seeing a bunch of touches. I think that John Gruden doesn't believe in Josh Jacobs, even though he drafted him in the first round, and you are going to be very disappointed with Josh Jacobs. After that is Chase Edmonds, who Cliff Kingsbury doesn't really believe in. Now, again, it's a fourth-round running back, so you're not necessarily expecting them to finish in the top 10, in the top 12, but that's why I like to hammer the running backs early, so I feel very confident with at least 2 running backs on my team. A guy like Chase Edmonds does have a lot of upside because of how good the Arizona Cardinals offense is, but them bringing in James Conner, to me, shows me that Cliff Kingsbury doesn't necessarily believe in Chase Edmonds. After that is TJ Hawkinson, Kareem Hunt, Adam Thielen, CD Lamb, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, Lamar Jackson, Mike Davis, Melvin Gordon to close out the 4th round. Very interesting to see where Cooper Kupp goes in drafts when compared to Robert Woods, because it feels like Cooper Kupp's really playing second fiddle to Robert Woods, which is my opinion as well, but at the end of the year, they typically finish relatively close to each other, and I think they could this year, definitely with Matthew Stafford under center. After Lockett came Lamar Jackson, Mike Davis, and Melvin Gordon. The 5th round began with Damian Harris, Kenny G-Spot Galladay, Mark Andrews, Short King, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Travis Etienne, and Leonard Fournette. Now, there's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks go in the first 5 rounds of the draft. Now, depending on your league, this could be a super low number, right? Because in some leagues, people draft quarterbacks left and right all over the draft. But then in other leagues, early on in the draft, I should say, people will not draft a quarterback. So there will be like 2 quarterbacks go in the first 4 rounds, and then in the 6th, 7th round, you start seeing a hammering of the quarterback position. Every single league is different with quarterbacks. Same thing goes with tight ends. In some leagues, you're going to be seeing Kittle, Kelsey, Waller, they go early, obviously, in the draft in the first 3 rounds, and then there's a lull until like the 5th, 6th round that people start hammering tight ends. It's very different in every league, and that is something that's always very fun to talk about when we're doing the mock drafts. After Dak Prescott came Travis Etienne, Leonard Fournette, Brandon Ayuk, Ronald Jones, and James Robinson. So like I said, guys, in the 5th round, the running backs have dissipated. Raheem Mostert coming off the board. These are not guys you want starting on your roster, so that's why I feel it's very good that we have the team we have so far with Eckler, Akers, Amari Cooper, as well as Deontay Johnson. So we're about to be back up on the board here at the running back position. It is starting to get definitely scary. Now, I did talk about yesterday how I'm not a big fan of Javonte Williams, and I continue to be on that standpoint, but I think in the 5th round, in this type of a league where running backs are coming off the board super fast, I want to take Javonte Williams to secure a potential lead back on a team. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No, but in some cases, you have to fade your own brain. You have to go ahead, if you're playing in a bunch of leagues, and take players that you don't necessarily like, because you're going to be wrong on some of these players. I'm not going to be 100% right on every single player, so I have to fade my own brain and go a little bit different, and I feel like Javonte Williams was a fine pick there because he could technically become the lead back in Denver, even if I believe it is going to be a share the load scenario there in Denver with Melvin Gordon and him. Looking at tight ends, nothing I really want to be drafting here in the 6th round. So we're going to jump back into the wide receiver well here and select wide receiver of the Cincinnati Bengals, Titty Boy T. Higgins. Now, going into the NFL draft, I was slamming the drum. Normally I say I'm beating the drum, right? But I was fucking murdering that drum with whatever that thing is called, the drumstick type of deal. I'm smacking the ever-living shit out of that drum because I think that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to go ahead and draft Penei Sewell in the draft. I'm talking about how this offense is going to be great with Joe Burrow having actual protection. Shout out to Trojan condoms. And this guy is going to actually be able to stand back there, have some time, and feed the ball to T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. But in the draft, the Cincinnati Bengals took the draft and threw it out the fucking window because they elected to draft Jamar Chase. Now, I still believe T. Higgins can be successful on this team because I do believe that the Cincinnati Bengals defense, being this dog shit, is going to elevate the offense to have to be throwing the ball a whole lot throughout the game, which is obviously going to bode quite well for all of the wide receivers there. I think there is a scenario where all three of those wide receivers have top 20 potential. We saw T. Higgins last year play quite well. I believe that Joe Burrow had his hand in getting T. Higgins to the Cincinnati Bengals in last year's draft, and I was very surprised in what we saw to T. Higgins last season. Quite the excellent year, over 900 receiving yards. He had 6 total touchdowns on the season. I think that it is entirely possible that T. Higgins has another great year in 2021, and as my wide receiver number 3, behind guys that I'm relatively confident in, Amari Cooper and Deontay Johnson. I like that. Now, a lot of people are very against Deontay Johnson. I think that half the crowd is going to say that Deontay Johnson is going to be great. The other half of the crowd thinks Deontay Johnson has no hands, and this guy is basically a useless draft pick. And that's the beauty of fantasy football. There's so many players during these drafts that are what I would describe as polarizing players. Players that half the community they fucking love. They'll get down on their knees and they'll give this guy the suck, the gawk 9000 on Twitter and talk about how amazing this player is. Then the other half will talk about how Deontay Johnson sucks and how Deontay Johnson will never be able to catch the ball. He is a useless pick. That's what's so fun about fantasy football. I am on the standpoint that Deontay Johnson is going to be great. It seems as though that he is Big Ben Roethlisberger's favorite target. It seems as though the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line is not getting much better, so they're still going to be passing at a relatively high rate. To me, I think that Juju Smith-Schuster is not that guy, pal. Trust me, you're not that guy. I think Juju Smith-Schuster needed a change of scenery, but he wanted to stay in Pittsburgh because he knows that Mike Tomlin doesn't give a fuck if he's doing the Corvette. He knows that if he went to the Chiefs, the Kool-Aid man, Andy Reid, would have a zero policy, or zero, what is that called? Zero tolerance policy. He thinks that Andy Reid would take his phone and fucking throw it out the window because he wants him to focus on playing the game of football. I don't think Juju is really a bad wide receiver. I just don't think he's the guy that he was a couple of years ago with Antonio Brown lighting the league on fire. So after I went ahead and drafted the combo of Javonte Williams and T. Higgins, Odell came off the board. Aaron Rodgers, Chase Claypool, Justin Herbert, the pervert, Jalen Hurts, Noah Fant, Kyle Pitts, A.J. Dillon, Juju Smith-Schuster, Cortland Sutton, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, DJ Chark, Tyler Higbee, Mike Licky, Ahmad Gesicki, Kenyon Drake, Robert Tonyan, and Logan Thomas, guys. And a lot of these drafts later, 6th, 7th round, like I said, there's going to be these tight end runs. There's going to be these quarterback runs. Quarterbacks are flying off the board. Am I personally going to draft a quarterback here? Probably not. I'm just going to continue to wait since basically everyone already has a quarterback. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 out of the 14 teams already have a quarterback. So I'm going to wait until like the 9th round to take a quarterback. But there is definitely a scenario in this draft where I wait too long to take the quarterback, and people start taking 2 quarterbacks, and then you're screwed. So you kind of have to hedge your bet and hope here in the 9th round that one ends up falling to me. The tight ends, it is looking grim. I should have drafted a tight end before this, but I did not expect this many tight ends to be flying off the board. Hunter Henry now off the board. So now you're in full-on punt mode, which is something that we typically never enter because I'm always able to get a guy like Irv Smith later in the draft. So this is definitely going to be completely different to every other video because we're going to draft 2 tight ends here later in the draft. We're going to take a shot on 2 guys and hope they pay off, but we're just going to wait on doing that. We're probably going to look running back here. Gus Edwards is one of my favorite late round targets at the running back position, but I will be taking Michael Carter above him because I feel like there's an actual chance Michael Carter is the starter of the Jets, where I feel like Gus Edwards, there's really no chance he becomes the starter over J.K. Dobbins unless, of course, Dobbins was to get hurt, which should be pretty obvious by the fact that Gus Edwards is going in like the 8th, 9th round of drafts, 10th round of the draft, and J.K. Dobbins is like a 2nd or 3rd round pick. I think that the Baltimore Ravens are going to be running the ball a whole lot so that Gus Edwards will actually have opportunity week in, week out, but I think that is really squashed. The super amount of upside is squashed by J.K. Dobbins, whereas Michael Carter kind of has an open door here to go ahead and ball out. So looking at wide receivers here, we're going to go with an upside pick here in Curtis Samuel of the Washington football team. Curtis Samuel is a guy that I liked a decent amount in Carolina. For the last maybe 2-3 seasons, I've always thought he was a nice late round addition to your team, but nothing ever really panned out to go Curtis Samuel's way because he was always kind of playing third fiddle, wasn't necessarily the guy there in Carolina. Now, is he the guy in Washington? No. Mr. Terry McLaurin is going to be the guy, but I do think that Curtis Samuel is the clear number 2 in this offense, and with the fact that he's going to be seeing a lot of rushing yards as well with his former coach, Riverboat Ron, as the head coach of the Washington football team, I think that Curtis Samuel is one of those later round picks that has a lot of upside. Now, I don't necessarily have him ranked higher than a guy like Jamar Chase, like Brandon Cooks, but I do think it's fun to take these shots later on in the draft when I feel confident in the players that I already have. Like I said, I feel confident in Amari Cooper. I feel confident in Deontay Johnson. I feel pretty confident in T. Higgins. So why not take a YOLO shot on Curtis Samuel, who could be the number 2, should be the number 2 on the Washington football team. And if Ryan Fitzpatrick is playing as well as we've seen that he can play, then this pick is going to be chef's kiss beautiful inside of the 8th round. So looking at the draft board, after we went with our 1-2 combo of Michael Carter and Curtis Samuel, we see Gus Bus Edwards, Los Angeles defense, Washington football team, Pittsburgh defense, Baltimore defense, Tony Pollard, San Fran, Indianapolis, Harrison Bucker the fucker, and Justin Tucker the fucker. Now we are drafting up against a lot of computers because every single time you try to find a 14 team draft, every time it never fills. The 10-team drafts, the 12-team drafts that they host on Yahoo, they fill instantly. They get premature ejaculated into instantly every single time. But when you're looking for a 14-team draft, typically it never fills, so that's just how it is. But as we get into the middle of July, early August, when people are hammering down, trying to get that fancy knowledge, trying to mock draft, then we see these fill up a lot more. So I do genuinely apologize for it not being a full lobby, but I still think that this mock draft has been helpful, even if we're drafting up against a bunch of robotos. So after Harrison Butker came the New Orleans Saints, Tampa Bay defense, my old bitch lame, but my young Hoku and Jarvis Landry juice to close out the 8th round. The 9th round begins with Jamal Williams, who is a running back that I really like to target late in drafts. This team is talking about, and by this team I mean the Detroit Lions, is talking about how they want to use a 1-2 punch system, 1A, 1B. Jamal Williams is the 1B to DeAndre Swift's 1A. And I am worried about DeAndre Swift because I think that the Lions are going to fucking suck and they're going to have to run the ball a lot. So hopefully DeAndre Swift's catching enough passes. Jamal Williams can also catch passes. I think he's a pretty solid 9th round pick because he will be getting a lot of use in these games, even if DeAndre Swift is healthy. After Jamal Williams came the Kansas City Chiefs defense, Greg the Leg Zuerlein, Will Lutz, New England Patriots, Buffalo Bills, Jason Sanders, Rodrigo, you sunk my Blankenship, and Robbie Anderson. So we are coming back here on the board soon. We should probably take a quarterback and a tight end at this turn because people will start taking backup quarterbacks, and then we're going to end up with some schlub as our starting quarterback. Matt Ryan would be the guy that I am eyeing right here. I do think that the Atlanta defense is going to struggle again mightily this season, and that's going to boost up Matt Ryan's value. So hopefully he falls to me at this pick and I can take him. That is going to be my selection here. I think that Matt Ryan probably does have top 12 potential, but he's never going to be a guy that really finishes in the top 5 because he has 0 rushing ability. If you're really hunting for upside, you could go with Trevor Lawrence, but personally I'm going to lean Matt Ryan with this pick. And then at tight end here, it starts to get very bad the longer I wait. So I'm going to go with Gronk. I understand that Gronk last year during the regular season kind of sucked. During the playoffs, he sparked it up like Snoop Dogg, but I do believe that there is potential that he plays a lot better this season. I'm going to pair him with another tight end as well, because when you're taking Gronk, I really don't see top 10, top 12 even. I mean, top 12, yeah. but I don't see the old Gronk in him anymore. I think he could be that, but they're kind of letting him block more. He's resting his body. He's not playing as hard during the regular season so that they can unleash him in the playoffs, which makes complete and utter sense if you are the team. Obviously, if you are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you are Bruce Arians, you want to make sure that Gronk is able to stay healthy, so I understand, but that's why I'm going to take him late and then match him with another tight end. I'm pretty confident in Matt Ryan to where I don't have to draft a second quarterback, so we're probably just going to draft 2 tight ends in this one. So next up, we're probably going to be looking for a running back, but the question is what's going to be available in 22 picks, and it's probably not going to be so great. That's why in 14-team leagues, like I said earlier, you got to hammer down on the running back position early. The wide receiver value is still pretty solid this late. Jamar Chase, I mean, that guy could easily be a top 20 wide receiver. He could easily finish ahead of T. Higgins, who we drafted a couple rounds ago. Jerry Jeudy, there is a whole lot of potential for this guy to bounce back after having a not so hot rookie season. I mean, he still had 856 receiving yards, but he had so many targets, was struggling with drops. There is potential for Jerry Jeudy to have a big bounce back, and I think he should. A guy like Marvin Jones is going super late, and year in, year out, Marvin Jones takes his ADP and beats that thing to a fucking pulp. He basically Mike Tyson's that thing into the next season because he always just somehow is underrated, but this time he switched teams from Detroit to Jacksonville, which could be a bit worrisome because we don't really know how Trevor Lawrence sees this team and who the true wide receiver one is. Is it going to be Laviska Shenault? I wouldn't think so. Is it going to be Chark? Maybe. Is it going to be Marvin Jones? Maybe. So that's kind of what I'm thinking with that. Michael Gallup is also a very interesting pick late. Very interesting. I don't like Michael Gallup because he's, the cuck. Basically, he was cucked by Amari Cooper, by the fact that they drafted CeeDee Lamb, really. And then he's third up. He's not getting as many targets. He had an excellent 2019 season. 2020 was a fucking doozy for him. I think there is potential for a bounce back, but I don't love it. Mike Williams. Now, this report will make you salivate here. Mike Williams to play X and see a lot of targets. That X role, which they're probably going to talk about here, is going to see a lot of targets because when this Lombardi man was the offensive coordinator of the Saints, that was Michael Thomas, was the X receiver. So maybe we're to see slant god Mike Williams in 2021. That's a very interesting news blurb. But again, don't buy in too heavily to what these news blurbs say because they frankly lie to your face all the fucking time. Like I talked about earlier, they're talking about how Josh Jacobs is going to get all these receptions last year. Josh Jacobs barely increased in targets. They talked about, every year they talk about some crazy shit. They'll suck off Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and then he sucks 2 years in a row. They'll talk up all of these players, and they suck for years. For years. Until 2019, obviously Devontae Parker had that big breakout year. They told you Devontae Parker was excelling in camp, that this is the time for Devontae Parker. Year 1, not the time. Year 2, not the time. Year 3, not the time. Year 4, not the time. And then I think it was a 5th-year breakout for Devontae Parker. And they were calling for it for like 5 years. So the fact that the beat reporters tell you one thing, don't necessarily buy completely in on it. Take it with a grain of salt. Like earlier on, I've been talking about this pretty much every mock draft when I take Irv Smith, that the beat report, or that the head coach, Mike Zimmer, is telling us that Irv Smith is not going to be seeing an increase in targets. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you just trying to mask the fact that Irv Smith is going to be used in your offense because Kyle Rudolph's gone, so you need Irv Smith. I mean, I just don't understand. The news blurbs that come out in, like, June, July, they're always fucking crazy. Wait until you see it in preseason before you really buy into it. But that is very good news for Mike Williams and definitely makes me more excited, more happy in the pants to be drafting a guy like Mike Williams. So I'm going to add him to my queue. He'll probably get taken now that I said that. So we're going to look to get a running back here, but I think there's only a couple of running backs here with some upside. I mean, Alexander Mattison is basically useless unless Dalvin Cook was to get hurt. Jeff Wilson Jr., he's injured. He's actually an interesting draft pick in like a 12-team league. You just draft him, you throw him on your IR, and then maybe 4 or 5 weeks in, he takes the starting job if Trey Sermon isn't that good, if Raheem Mostert struggles. So that is kind of interesting. James White is an interesting pick. Tevin Coleman is an interesting pick. So there's a decent amount of guys late here. Phillip Lindsay is very interesting as well because he was a former Pro Bowler. I don't know why the Denver Broncos got rid of him. They didn't have to pay him all that much money, but now he could be the best running back in Houston because we all know David Johnson is kind of over that hill. So Philip Lindsay would be an interesting pick here to take, but of course Team 12 says, fuck you, Nick. You're not going to be able to do that. So we are going to go with Mike Williams first, except for the fact is that the computer took Mike Williams. So we're going to go with Devontae Smith here, rookie wide receiver of the Philadelphia Eagles. I did a whole video yesterday breaking down these potential rookie breakouts, and I talk a lot about Devontae Smith in that video, how he is basically amongst a bunch of idiots at the wide receiver corps in Philadelphia with Jalen Reagor, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. So he is very clearly the wide receiver one on that team, and not enough people are talking about that. So we're back up on the board here. A guy that I really like to take late rounds at the running back position is J.D. McKissic. I think that McKissic showed a lot of value last year. They're projecting him to be pretty shit compared to what he was last season. I understand he's the clear number 2 on this team behind Antonio Gibson, but I am still pretty excited to get J.D. McKissic on my team regardless, because I just feel as though he is going to be seeing a lot of receiving opportunity in this offense, and that, again, if Antonio Gibson was to go down, he's the clear number 1 back in that system if that was to happen. We are closing in on the end of the draft, so if you guys have ended up enjoying this video, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. I would really appreciate it a ton. I hope you guys did end up enjoying this video. Obviously, there's still some more picks, though, so make sure you're still buckled on in to keep on listening to me. But, of course, you know, I would just appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. I hope you guys are having a great day. Today is Thursday. Only one more day until Friday, baby. Again, let me know what you guys are doing on the 4th of July. I asked at the end of last video. Maybe I need to ask at the beginning of next video, because I love reading about what people do on the 4th of July, because the 4th of July is quite literally my favorite holiday. So next up on the docket, we're going to just recap what has been happening after we went with Devontae Smith. Baker Mayfield came out the board, followed by Michael Pittman Jr. Then we went with J.D. McKissic, followed by Jonnu Smith, Danny Dimes, Austin Hooper, Antonio Brown, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Evan Ingram, Carson Wentz, Trevor Lawrence, Jeff Wilson, and Rashad Penny. So people are going with 2 quarterbacks in this draft, which is kind of understandable in a 14-team league for people to go with 2 quarterbacks. Why is that? That is because it's going to be kind of hard to stream quarterbacks in a 14-team league. So if Matt Ryan was to go down, we are basically fucked if people are taking 2 quarterbacks, which is understandable. We are screwed. So we got to hope Matt Ryan ends up staying healthy. Matty Ice baby. So we're not going to go 2 quarterbacks. We do have to go with 2 tight ends, though, because, again, I'm not ultra confident in Gronk. And I think, well, Zach Ertz, the report is this guy may end up being a no one circles the wagons like a Buffalo Bill in the next 2 days, because the reports are that the trade could take up to 48 hours for it to happen, that it's basically a done deal. So that's interesting. There will be a video on my channel when Zach Ertz ends up getting traded. When will that happen? Again, probably in the next 48 hours, so probably tomorrow. But you never know. It could happen today. I could upload this video, and then 4 seconds later, Zach Ertz gets traded, and then I upload that one. So, you know, maybe that'll happen. Adam Troutman is a very interesting late-round pick for the New Orleans Saints, since Jared Cook is gone. Jared Cook I also like as an interesting late-round pick, because he's still been pretty good throughout his career, and he's going to the Chargers. Justin Herbert doesn't love throwing to the tight end. He's not Phillip Rivers, because we know Phillip Rivers loves those tight ends. That's why the guy has 11 kids. So we can finally get a Phillip Rivers joke into one of these videos, and I definitely have been blocking the bottom of the board this whole time. What an asshole I am here, guys. Number 1 asshole in all of America. Wow, my name is Borat. Sorry. Oh, man, dude. At the end of these mock drafts videos, I always just start talking crazy, so for no reason, to be honest with you. There's no reason for it. I just start having a lot of fun deep down in these drafts. Diving in. After Jamison Crowder came Hayden Hurst, Marlon Mack, Blake Jarwin, Cole Beasley, Darnell. Here comes the money. Money, 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 money. James White, John Smokey Brown, I think that's his nickname. Benny Snell, Deshaun Watson, Justin Fields, I cannot read. Jalen Reagor, T.Y. Hilton. Thank you, Hilton. And we're going to go ahead here and snag Zach Ertz, the next Buffalo Bills tight end, hopefully. If not, then that pick is stupid, and we should have went with Jared Goff or Jared Cook. Apparently, Chris Herndon has lost his job. I wish I could see this. The fact that he just sucked ass in all these practices they've been having, so not very good. How is Jalen Waddle still available? That's crazy. That is crazy. But now we got to get our kicker. We got to get our defense. We're just going to zoom till we get our defense in the 15th round. So I'm going to go ahead and take our kicker here. We're going to go with Tyler Bass. Dude really played good last year. Never even heard of him until last year. I think he was a rookie, and he played very, very well. Again, not some kicker expert, so I think he was a rookie, is actually what I think. I don't really know, but he did play quite well, fit well for Buffalo. No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. And now, a word from our sponsor. No, I'm just kidding. Now, we're going to fast forward to our very next pick. Bum, 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 bada, bum. Through the power of editing, we are back in a bunch of defenses. People are taking backup defenses again. It's the computer, so, you know, it is what it is, right? That's just what the Yahoo computer makes you do. So that's why you always got to make sure you show up to your fucking draft and don't let the computer draft, because you're going to end up with 2 kickers on your team and all this bullshit. So we got to get a defense now. Typically, the way I go for defense is I draft a defense playing a bad offense week 1, or an offense that I feel like is going to end up struggling, and then I draft the defense playing against them, and then the next week, if they play up a harder opponent, I take that defense, I dribble them around, I fucking throw them out of my lineup, boom, onto the waiver wire, then I add a new defense. I make videos every single week for the defenses. I haven't done the research yet as to which defense to draft, so we're just going to take best available, but I will have a video out in the future for that, so that you guys know who to draft and who to stream every single week. Streaming defenses is the first video every single week following Monday Night Football, or following Sunday Night Football. I think every single Monday I post that video. That's at least how it has worked in the past. So let's go ahead and look at our team now. Before we head out of here, our team is composed of Matty Ice Baby, bum bum bada bum 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 bum. Our wide receivers are Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson. Our running backs are Austin Eckler and Cam Akers. Our tight end is Rob Gronkowski. Our flex is Javonte Williams. Our bench is comprised of T. Higgins, Michael Carter, Curtis Samuel, Devontae Smith, J.D. McKisson Titties, Zach Ertz. Our kicker is Tyler Bass, and our defense is the Tennessee Titans. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you guys did end up enjoying at any point in this video, please make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Please make sure you hit that like button as well to boost the video up the algorithm. Comment Bass down below if you made it this far. I love you guys all. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe as always. Good boy.